Hi, this is No Ordinary Voice of Spiritual Ventriloquism. You are listening to Me Himself. Well, back in about December of 2012, I did a broadcast. You can pull it up on Google, somewhere around the 18th of December or somewhere in there, 2012, in commemoration of the Mayan calendar coming to an end. I did a radio broadcast entitled The Death Culture in Christian Mythology. And basically showing that Christianity is a death culture, a culture that's pretty much obsessed with death. And this goes beyond the realm of, acknowledging and, being a partaker of the death and suffering of the Mashiach or the Messiah. But goes far beyond that. One of the things that I, brought out in that broadcast was that there was a striking fact, and that is that a centerpiece of Judeo-Christian doctrine. I call it Judeo-Christian doctrine because Christians did not originate this doctrine. It was the Jews and not the Hebrews, of a fiery punishment, eternal lake of fire type doctrine. And at that time I had shared how, that pretty much that was rooted in, Dante's Inferno and the Divine Comedy, and that, pretty much, Catholic and Christian doctrine, it pretty much, cycles around the vortex of these medieval playwrights who incorporated copious amounts of Greek mythology, I might add, in their works, and then that is passed off as Christian doctrine, which must be mentally, or should be mentally ascended to in order to keep your theology straight. So, well, anyway, thinking back on that, I've had much time to consider the matter, and I remember actually expressing that, well, first of all, I'll say I still believe in a punishment of the wicked. I believe that that there will be exactly what both the Christians and the Jews claim, that there will be some type of purging, purification, or atonement for that wickedness. But one thing I did express in that broadcast was a general rejection of the notion that this punishment was some type of never-ending, in perpetuity type of punishment. I don't necessarily believe that, if there was a lake of fire, that you would just jump in and just go, and that would be the end of it. But seriously, looking back at this again, and part of this, I've even become more in, I don't say skepticism, but find it rather distasteful to continue holding to some type of an eternal burning, fiery inferno that's going to last forever and ever, where the devil's got pitchforks and long red underwear and a set of horns, and they're going to gig you and all of that stuff. It's, like that mess comes out of, medieval Hollywood. And it really doesn't have any place in our Bible anyway. And one of the main things and the main reasons is that this doctrine has some serious flaws in it, because the very word that is used to describe the lake of fire in both the Greek and Hebrew, it comes directly from the Hebrew, and that word is Gehenna, it's referring to the valley of the son of Hinnom. Now, most Christian commentators have tried to associate this Greek rendering, or earlier Greek rendering, actually an earlier Alexandrian Jewish rendering of this would have been tophet, which means to burn. It comes from the Hebrew word toph, which means to burn. Okay, and Christian commentators and Jewish commentators as well have tried to basically relegate this as a physical description of a place where the Jerusalemites would take their trash, basically like the city dump, and burn their garbage. This was outside or below the walls of Jerusalem proper, and that they basically tried to show that this is going to be the final state of the wicked and the final place of the dead. There's only one problem with that, is that there is no real concrete text in all of the Torah. 4,000 years of chronicles and histories and writings are completely silent to this rendering of Gehenna, hell, lake of fire, and the first instances of this only appear in the Greek version of the Apocrypha, where is referred to as Tophet. Then later on, the Romans kind of restore the original Hebrew name, or at least a Greek rendering of the Hebrew name, Gehinnom, or Gehenna, which means the valley of the son of Hinnom, to put this into their doctrines of their theology. And one of the things that is interesting to note is what type of activity was actually founded here in this valley. And that fact is that this was the place where idolatrous Israelites were basically burning. They were basically burning their children, their infant children, alive in the arms of a pagan idol, a pagan Jebusite, Canaanite idol called Moloch. Okay? They would burn their children alive, sacrifice their children alive in an idolatrous rite and worship. These were Hebrews doing this too. Now, these weren't Jews now. These were Hebrews that were committing these atrocities. Okay? And there's 5 times where this is mentioned in the book of Jeremiah. One of these things, it says that, let's see, it's the book of Jeremiah, I believe it is. There's about 5 occasions of it. We'll get to that here in just a second. I'm trying to pull that up real quick. Okay. It says right here in Jeremiah 32:5, it says, "And they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom," or Gehenna. to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, or to pass through unto Moloch. The fire is actually italicized, but the result of this is well documented, that there were over 30,000 burned infant skeletons that were excavated in the late 1800s, early 1900s, something like that, that confirmed that, yes, Hebrew Israelite people, they were idolatrous. They took their children and they burned them to a pagan false god named Moloch, which it says here, which I commanded them not, and neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. It's amazing. This was so utterly horrific. Now, Yah was not, what do you say, taken, what do you say, caught by surprise. Oh my, he didn't say, oh my, look what they're doing. But it is saying that right here, I commanded them not to do these things, and you can see that in the Torah. But neither came it into my mind that they should do this abomination. He says, I did not even think for a second that they would actually do this. I would have never thought. I mean, it's not in the heart of Yah to predict the most evil he can for his children. Okay? And he said that it didn't even enter into his mind that they would run to this kind of excess of riot to cause Judah to sin. Ezekiel 16:21. You have slain my children and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them. Okay? And Ezekiel 20:26, and I polluted them in their own gifts, in that they caused to pass through the fire all that openeth the womb. See, all that openeth the womb is supposed to be holy. Every male that crosses over the matrix is to be holy unto Yahweh, that I might make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am the master. Ezekiel 20:31. For when you offer your gifts, when you make your sons to pass through the fire, you pollute yourselves with all your idols. Even to this day, shall I be inquired of you, O house of Israel, as I live, saith the master, Yahweh Elohim, I will not be inquired of you, by you. Okay? And it says it caused their sons whom they bear for them. So in other words, it was sons in particular that were preferred to be sacrificed to this pagan Canaanite deity and called Molech, to devour them. So those are not just, I mean, you can go back in 2 Kings and they were doing this, causing their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire. Leviticus 18:21, thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire. To Moloch, neither shall you profane the name of your El. I am the master. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or daughter to pass through the fire, that useth divination or observer of times, or an enchanter or witch. Deuteronomy 18:10. So here we have a good baseline of what has been going on back here below the walls of Jerusalem. Hebrews sacrificing their sons, preferably, and their daughters, to a Canaanite mighty one. Okay? Now, again, this is in the valley of the son of Gehenna. Okay? Now, when you take that fact and you bring that forward, this is the basis of Judeo-Christian doctrine on eternal punishment and the afterlife. What is generally held over people's head in Christianity like a sword of Damocles to get you to, straighten out your theology, toe the theological line, quote the Apostolic Creed and the Westminster's Confession or the Messianic or sacred name versions of it. What they're doing is they're basically not telling you that this eternal, huge doctrine that is kind of a cornerstone of Christian theology, of Messianic theology, Jewish theology, is in fact based on the idolatrous practices of the Hebrews. It wasn't the Greeks, and it wasn't the Romans. Now, no doubt, they probably had some of that mess going on themselves. Maybe not so much the Romans as perhaps the Greeks. But we know that these were Canaanite abominations that was ritually being carried out below Jerusalem in a place called Gehenna or Gehenna. And it just so happens to be that this idolatrous practice begins to, which again, I will mention again, is not in the Torah. Psalm 83, Isaiah 66, about as close as you can get is the coming of the Messiah, coming in flames of fire, taking vengeance upon all of his enemies, all them that know not God, Yahweh, the Master, and obey not the Besorah of the Master, Yeshua HaMoshiach. Okay? So, here you have it, folks. This doctrine is in fact rooted in pagan idolatrous practices, and it has crept and slithered its way into the minds and into the thinking of billions of people, Christians, Messianics, Hebrew Israelites, because it really is, in fact, the worn out Christian tire that somebody has tried to apply a Torah Hebrew patch to it so it can get one more mile down the road before it blows out a second time or a third time or 100 times. If that wasn't enough evidence for me, the thing that really, the deal breaker for the whole thing for me was a Bible study that Pastor Dowell did some months back entitled Yepta. Okay? He did basically a 3-part scripture study where Yepta was going to offer a human sacrifice of his daughter, according to some. Others, she was going to not be offered, but, she was going to be dedicated to the temple. And then there was a conclusive end to that, where he gave his opinion, but he allowed everyone basically to have their own opinions throughout the whole series. An excellent one. I would recommend that highly to anyone. But like I said, the deal breaker that came out from that was when Pastor Dowell made this statement. And the statement that he said was that the difference between the Hebrews and the pagans, or the sacrifices of Israel and the sacrifices of the heathen, was that the Hebrews would always kill or slay their sacrifices and take their blood their life from them before they put them on a burnt altar. The sacrificing heathens would do just like the Hebrews in the days of Jeremiah and earlier on in the monarchy would do with their sons and daughters, and that they would act like heathens and pagans, and they would sacrifice their sons and their daughters to a Canaanite iron furnace deity, where they would throw their live children on a burning, searing hot plate, to where there will be screams and, who knows, they might have had to bring Led Zeppelin in there to beat the drums, which is also another rendering for that word taf, not only to burn, but to also to a drum, which assumed that there was some types of drumming going on to, kind of somewhat temper the agony and the terror of these children. Now, mind you, this thing is called an abomination to Elohim, but yet it has incorporated itself and made itself home, put its feet up on the coffee table, and said, "Serve me," for the past at least 2,000 years or more. And so anyway, that was the difference. The pagans, they didn't have the righteousness to regard the life of a beast, let alone their own children. But they exercised the tender mercies of the wicked, which are cruel. And now, that was the deal breaker for me. From that point forward, I'm done. Honestly, I'm done with that doctrine. If anybody else is not done with it, that's fine. Believe what you want your life. You spend it how you will. But personally, unless I'm required to believe in the Apostolic Creed or the Westminster Confession or any Torah-based version of that, then, those things will be that way, I guess. But the decision was made based upon a very anointed Bible study series, and I think that we should reconsider, seriously reconsider our attitudes toward something that Yah called an abomination, that was rooted in pagan idolatrous practices of the Hebrews, carried over into our renewed covenant. Okay? And then, what do you say? We're kind of like in some sick game now where, we're like going back to, the Baptist version of once saved, always saved. It's once saved, always saved, until somebody screws up real bad, falls away. Then he was never really saved to begin with. What a nice parachute for self-justification. So, anyway, not that I want to, ding on anybody. Believe what you want, that's fine. But I think it seriously needs to be reconsidered. And we need to look at this in the light of what is expressed in the Torah. Because currently, if I am not off the rails on this too far, which I do not believe that I am, that if you find things in the renewed covenant, things that have been brought out quite frequently, if you find things in the renewed covenant or the Besorah claiming that Jesus said certain things, and they either contradict or cannot be found in the Torah or the prophets, then that information should be viewed with much skepticism, because ultimately I want to know what the truth of the matter is. Okay? To the law and to the testimony, if any man speak not according to his word, the word that Yah has spoken, the word that his men have spoken, then that is because there is no light in them. So, you know, we have, a cavitation of theology going on between the so-called renewed covenant text concerning the third hell or Gehenna or the lake of fire, and what the old covenant or the Torah and the prophets actually bring forward and teach. It is it's a serious matter, you know. Of course, you know, I understand, you know, the Christian schizophrenic response to this is going to be, you know, well, you've gone too far, and, you know, and stuff like that. Well, perhaps I have. Maybe I never got there to begin with. You know, I mean, we can go ahead, you know, once saved, always saved, and I guess he never was really saved after all. But anyway, that's just my my take on this subject. Again, I'm not one to, you know, talk about something publicly and then you know, change my mind 2, 3 weeks, 6 months, a year, 2, 5, 10 years down the road. Usually when I latch a hold of something, I'm going to stick with it. So yeah, that's because, you know, I mean, damn, if I can't, you know, stick with, you know, something for any length of time, I mean, you know, I don't know how I could be trusted. Anyway, so, with all that said and done, I think that, again, this is something that needs to be seriously looked at, because what I'm reading, how I'm reading, which, you know, you be the judge of that, a significant portion of New Testament theology, as they say. And I'm not even crazy about that term because it means the study of the gods. Greek mythology, which is where a lot of this stuff comes from. Greek and Egyptian mythologies. And so anyway, again, the ultimate conclusion to this whole thing is this. If sacrificing your children, or human sacrifice in general, where people are being burnt alive and offered as a sacrifice in atonement for sins or whatever, if this indeed is an abomination to Yahweh, and it is an abomination to Yahweh to burn people alive for a sacrifice, when Yahweh's sacrifices that he has been recorded as accepting were all slain sacrifices, and then their carcasses were burnt on the altar. If in fact this difference is significant, which I believe this is the whole issue, okay, then the ultimate conclusion of this is that Yah has either changed. The Bible says he cannot do that. He reserves some type of executive privilege for himself, which is an abomination in his own eyes if others should proceed in a like manner. Okay? Or he's hiding behind this Canaanite pagan deity called Molech, or one of the Baals, one of the gods of Canaan, or as they say, one of the mighty ones of Canaan. There are no other conclusions, because for him to take a person, allow them to live their life in his mercy, in his compassion, in his righteous judgment, giving people what they want, live their whole entire life, let's say in wickedness, or maybe not believe in the right things, because, Christian theology says you're going to burn for that too. Because, they're loaded with mental assent. Like I said, Apostolic Creed, Westminster Confession. But the ultimate conclusion is that what's abominable to Yah, he now is going to participate in himself. He's going to take the place of this Canaanite deity, and he is going to take people and cast them alive into a lake of fire, and alive too, because this is after the resurrection and the judgment, and then they're going to go in there and they're going to burn forever and ever and ever in endless perpetuity. And just isn't any Torah for that. There's a lot of Christian dogma. There's a lot of Judeo-Christian dogma. I mean, at least the Jews have some mercy. They only make it last 12 months. But you're going to go to Gehenna and be boiled in hot excrement and stuff like that for believing in Jesus. Well, anyway, I think I've rambled long enough on this subject. What do you say? We're supposed to serve the Most High in joy. Okay? And in reverence for Him as a Father, as a Creator. Like they used to say, this ain't no fire escape religion. And if, you're going to serve Yah because you're afraid of going to hell, then you're just going to end up there anyway, because the fearful and unbelieving are going to have their part in a lake which burns with fire and brimstone. Did he say that? There's been so much that has been altered in the New Testament that just little old me, insignificant me, is aware of, that I have to even question, did he say that? Did Jesus say that a man in the resurrection was going to be immortal and would have no need to reproduce? Did he say that? Did Herod and the Jews celebrate Easter? Acts 12:4. Did Shaul instruct Timothy that a bishop should be the husband of only one wife, meaning monogamous? Did he say that? Did Yah provoke David to number Israel? Or was it Satan that provoked David to number Israel? Two different scribal accounts tell you that it was two different people. Which one is it? I think I've said enough. I really do. But honestly, to serve the Most High out of some fear, real or imagined, and I do place emphasis on the imagined, and you would be surprised at how you can re-engineer this mind to believe something so much that will have such a hold on you all your life that it will even carry with you over into the grave. And maybe I'm talking in terms of quantum physics right now. But if a man's justified by his words, and by his words he will be judged or condemned or declared righteous, and the things that we say bring us to a place where we start creating our own reality, like fear of things usually bring on those things that are feared. Been teachings of Job about that. That's another thing Pastor Dow said on many occasions. Better watch out what you do with this mind, how you play with it, because it's a whole lot more powerful than you even know. You could believe something so strong that can carry over into the other side and actually become your reality. You know why? It's your life. You got to live it. And he is a respecter of that fact. So anyway, I'm going to quit talking about quantum physics now. And just stick with the subject matter at hand. Is a lake of fire a legitimate Hebrew doctrine? I think not. Well, something to consider. Have a good night. Shalom. Bye.